Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Innovative Agency. It's Sharon Torek here with you again, and looking forward to a really great conversation about, a part of agency life that we haven't really talked about on the show very recently, anyway. And that is how digital advertising has evolved. I think we're sometimes a little fatigued about all the change, and we don't see it anywhere more prominently, probably, than we do on the digital landscape. And, in my experience helping agencies negotiate their client agreements, et cetera, it's also the area of marketing where the most careful conversations have to occur between agency and client up front because there's a lot of distrust, unfairly so, and as far as I'm concerned, if the metrics aren't set properly and the conversations are not had candidly upfront between digital agency and the client who's expecting a certain result or performance. So I'm excited to have an expert today on in the form of Jeff Swartz, who is the founder of the Ethic Advertising Agency. They are digital specialists. And Jeff, I'm really looking forward to talking to you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Sharon.
So I guess let's start there. There's a lot of things I want to ask you, but
Mhm.
um, this is sort of just my point of view as an outsider looking in, but I'm sure you have your own as the builder of a digital focused agency. Do you find this? Is this your experience that it's really hard to have the careful conversations with clients up front to set their expectations about what a digital campaign or tactic is going to do for them and how it's going to help them achieve their business results? Because I hear a lot of chatter about that.
Yeah, it's there's difficulty in how you approach the conversation. We don't find it hard to
Mhm.
start the conversation though. And I would say that because I'm a huge believer in culture and core values. One of them is what we call kind boldness, which all comes from speaking without a filter, but having it come from a place of trying to help them out.
Right.
The difficulty comes into play of what their expectations are and what is actually able to happen and what you're able to provide. In this day and age, people get so tied up in the data, in the details, and tracking every little thing that there are those individuals that that's all that they care about, and they forget about the holistic kind of strategy. They forget about the different touch points and how it all works. Google just did their article not too long ago about it's like 7-11-4, all the different touch points in different places that people do research to find information to make a purchasing decision and everything. It's a an ad campaign really is a multitude of different touch points for the most effective kind of outlet. So we try to explain that to people. We try to educate people and everything. But you have people that are thinking like, I just care about the nitty gritty numbers, all the way to like, I just care that it works. I don't care how it gets done, and everything in between as well too. So the conversation with that around that kind of shifts and changes based off of who you're talking with. So you have to figure out, and the difficulty is how to communicate that properly to them to manage their expectations.
Right.
But we kind of, with our core value, we took that out, the hesitation to have that conversation. Do we always have success of managing those expectations? Because sometimes people have their own thoughts no matter what we say and no matter what we do, but we have the receipts to say like, hey, we said it was going to be like this. We try to calculate out ROAS. We try to do all these things as well too,
Mhm.
and everything. And we can still kind of revert back to that and say, this is what we kind of explained. But sometimes they have their own kind of notions as well too, as we all know as agency owners, dealing with different clients means dealing with different personalities a lot of times.
Right. Right. Well, and I know you have a very specific perspective at Ethic about the interplay between creative and digital tactics.
Hmm?
A lot of times, agencies who do both tend to lean or focus their strength in one or the other.
Hmm?
Um, but talk a little bit about that and how maybe you weave that into the conversation with the client who's just being impatient about when they're going to see their number change, there's numbers change, and when those are going to convert into dollars for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So there's a couple things to unpack with that. Agencies that provide both do tend to lean one way or the other.
Mhm.
We tend to lean more towards media, but that doesn't diminish our creative. We just do more media. It's more ongoing. and our reputation and our in-house capabilities with some of the things that we do set us apart as well too. So it's one of those things where it just naturally progress that way as well too. It's also a big part of my background, but as we've grown, we've gone after, bringing creative in-house and developing that team as well too. So we do award-winning, like top-notch creative as well. But I think that there's an interesting kind of give and pull of how a company's direction kind of goes and how you shape that. That said, I've always believed that you have to have both. You have to have good distribution to the right people at the right time, and you have to have good creative messaging in order to convince them. The
Mhm.
analogy that I always like to use is when, as you're starting out in adulthood and you're starting to have that idea of maybe I want to find the one and everything, and you go into the dating world with that mentality. Well, if you go on a date with somebody and you don't say the right thing and they're not the right person, that's not going to go anywhere, and that's okay in that situation. If you go on a date with somebody and you say the right thing, but they're not the right person, that's potentially very problematic and everything, because maybe you do end up with the wrong person and everything. Just as
Right?
much as it is, if you don't say the right thing and it is the right person, you might miss out on the love of your life because you didn't say the right thing. And it's a lot like advertising is a lot like that with customers. You have to say the right thing to the right people for it to actually work, and everything, because you're not going to sell everybody everything. You can't be all things to all people, but you have to have that right combination of messaging and distribution in order to get that going. So there's a lot of instances where we just do distribution. There's some instances where we just do creative. A lot of times we're doing both as well too.
Mhm.
And no matter what, we always preach that same thing. And we share that dating analogy quite a bit, and everything. Cause I'm like, if we're just doing distribution, happy to take that role and stay in that lane and everything. We're also happy to collaborate on the creative and make sure that's right. If the client's doing it, another agency's doing it, anything like that. I just want it to be good. Because I don't want the campaign to fail. And bad creative can make media fail, and bad media can make good creative fail as well too. So you have to have that right mix.
Yeah. I think that that's the first dating analogy I've ever had on the show, and I like it a lot. I think it I think it aptly describes how you can miss your opportunities by getting one variable, not nailed down. So
Yeah, one of my
that's a
favorite things is to sit down and take, what are we learning? How is this working? And then how can we represent this in an easy to understand way to that I can share that with anybody and they get it. It clicks and everything. Which I know there's a lot of agency people that watch this and everything. So I love owning your own kind of content, putting your own spin on it and taking maybe different pieces, but then kind of combining it. And then you have ownership of it because like you said, nobody's talking about that dating analogy. I never heard anybody use that before. It's something I developed, but it's something that always makes that light bulb go off.
right, right. So one of the pieces of content that I really enjoyed as I was getting ready to have our conversation is your analogy of effective digital advertising to a strong spider web of
Mhm.
all things.
Yep.
Let's talk about that for a minute because I thought that was a really strong framework, without pun intended, to explain how the elements of a good digital advertising strategy, how they all work together and lead to effectiveness. So let's walk through that because I think that the agency peers who are listening to this could find a lot of value in that and thinking about how it applies to their own approach or to how they talk about digital advertising, perhaps with their own clients.
Yeah, and it actually extends even beyond digital advertising as well too. It's a lot of different touch points, but we actually there's an article in our blog section on our website that dives deeper into it. But the
Hmm.
spider web analogy we developed a couple of years back, kind of based off of the platform of like integrated marketing communication or those multiple touch points of just how advertising traditionally works. But it again is a nice analogy, a nice visual for that people can kind of understand. So if you think of every little thread of a spider web and you think of it as a targeting tactic and a medium and everything, so it could be site retargeted banner ads, it could be lookalike audience Facebook, it could be pay-per-click advertising on Google, whatever it is. If you have multiple threads that get intertwined and each thread is strong as well too, because if you have a bunch of weak threads, it doesn't work. But if you have these strong threads, And again, if budget allows, because that's how many threads you can actually get into this spider web, then you end up making this network. And the more of them you have, the bigger the spider web becomes and the stronger it becomes as well too. So it creates this web that's hard for your audience to miss. But then once you're in the web, it's actually hard for them to get out of that as well too. There's different
Mhm.
trigger points and different things that in digital will help them be like, hey, there's an indicator that this person's interested. The machine learning is actually going to serve them more ads and try to follow up with them, or maybe have a strategy around serving them progressive ad creative as well too, to get them deeper and deeper into the funnel. So that's just a really nice analogy of how to kind of think about that, and have it all kind of intertwined together. Now, that said, if you have a smaller budget, well, you still want a strong spider web, and you might just not have as many threads and stuff.
Right.
So budget really plays a role into how big of a web that can be, because you don't want a weak thread, but you also want to have multiple different points. Because if you just have one really strong thread, well, that's maybe great to get the spider from getting up high all the way down and everything, but is it going to
And what?
catch anything as well too? Maybe a little bit, help you get to where you want to be and everything, but having all those interlaced kind of holistic viewpoints and options is what we find to be the strongest campaigns, and then they're the ones that also help you last longer and build upon as well too.
Yeah, and you're also the second expert I've heard over the last couple of weeks. One was at a live conference I attended, and one now in this conversation. Um, you have a point of view about not scrimping on creative. You want the web to be what you call show stopping. And I think that sometimes we talk a little bit too much about not over focusing on the creative, but you're a digital expert talking about not under focusing on it either. So talk about that for a little bit in your point of view.
Yeah, so I think that agencies kind of tend to lean towards two different methodologies, either having a really good creative idea and then building around that, which I think is very logical. Our methodology tends to be on the flip of that, which other agencies do as well too. We like to build the strategy of the media side of things, the distribution and everything. And then we like to have the creative that is kind of built at the same time, but is really kind of complementary to what that strategy is. Because, as a lot of us know, different creative plays better in different mediums and stuff. So if we can kind of piece together what's a good strategy, what assets are we going to need, and then come up with an idea of, well, what do we say with that, and how do we put that together to really get somebody's attention to get the reaction that we want. We find that to be a very strong kind of strategy, because it's important to figure out, well, where are these people? What are they doing? How are those going to work? And then it becomes, okay, well, how do we convince them to do it as well too? So we're
Mhm.
identifying the people that we want to go on that date with, but then we're practicing in the mirror, figuring out what do we want to say, fine tuning it, and then distributing it to them as well too, to use that dating analogy again.
Right.
Um, it's always been a part of my belief system. My degree's more in creative, my background's more in media. I've always blended those two things together, because if they don't work hand in hand, then they don't work as well as they possibly could be.
Well, I think that's great. And I think that there's the takeaway there from anybody leading a creative or digital agency, that the two work hand in hand. And these days, you probably can't have an effective result without giving them equal balance or the appropriate balance or the recalibrated balance as time
Hmm.
moves on. You talk a lot about what you call in the spider web analogy the fly's journey, but what you really mean is the user experience or the customer journey. And so, talk a little bit about that and how that weaves into your philosophy of stickiness.
Yeah, so there's there's kind of two different journeys. So we actually tap into, when if we're talking about creative, just like if they're watching like a 30-second video or a video or something like that, we try to use the hero's journey methodology from cinema, where the customer that you're reaching is the Luke Skywalker, but the client that we're working for is Yoda, the one who's allowing them to go out there and get the resources to defeat the Empire and everything.
Mhm.
So there's that journey within the creative itself to make them feel something to take action. But then there's also the journey that they actually do. They get awareness of your product or service through a couple different mediums. And paid advertising is obviously only one medium. They could have heard it from a friend. It could be a PR effort. It could be a number of different pesos level kind of options that are out there for them.
Mhm.
But essentially, at the end of the day, they're going to become aware of your product or service, and then you want them to try to take an action of that. That action might be different for different people. So you want to figure out, how do you have that kind of spider web effect to have those different touch points, because you don't know what they're going to do next. You can try to guide them. If it's a digital ad, they click on it, then they go to a landing page, and then they can like see maybe a video on there, or read more content, or fill out a contact form, do a demo, whatever it might be. So you can actually try to guide that, but at the end of the day, you can't control anybody. So they
Right.
might see something, and then they just might happen to be in conversation with somebody, and that's the next time it's brought up. Or they might see something, and then they see another ad, and then another ad, and it just keeps on cycling through as well. So you want all these different breadcrumbs and touch points to be able to kind of go after them. Our specialty is paid advertising. That's what we talk about with the spider web. But if you also take that into account as a business owner of the different threads that you can put into it, that spider web is actually much bigger than just paid advertising.
Mhm.
So that's where you have to think about, well, what are our thought leadership efforts? What are our PR efforts? What are our sales processes? What's our website and our SEO value and our link building and all these other things as well too, that
Right.
stack up on top of it, because the customer's journey is always different. I hate The one thing I don't like about the spider web is that we associate people with flies. But if a fly flies into the net, they could get stuck, and then they're good. They converted, right?
Yeah.
They could go in there, and then they could struggle and try to fly out. But if they fly out, maybe you can get them to come back in, or whatever it might be. You just need to have different options, or you need to have that spider that actually crawls over the web, grabs their prey and everything, which could be a salesperson. Again, not the greatest analogy to have a salesperson be a spider and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in all honesty, they come in and they say, "Hey, what's going on? How can I help you?" And then get them more in that process of completing that sale.
Right. Very effective, I think, way of making sure that you don't miss all the necessary elements, right, of an effective strategy or a campaign. So, I'm sure you have seen a lot of transition and evolution over the last couple of years in your digital practice. At least
Hmm?
that's what I hear from lots of media and digital folks out there. And so let's talk a little bit about how Ethic is adapting to that, how you are thriving in the light of it, and maybe some of the changes that you've considered or have made internally to sort of help your clients navigate how digital has evolved over the last couple years.
Yeah, I do a talk about culture on like a keynote, and I'm bringing that up because in there I actually show the evolution of advertising. So like in
Mhm,
the 1400s, you have signs, and then like the printing press came around. And then it took a few hundred years before like newspapers and everything. And then, another couple hundred years, and then you get into like the TV and radio. And then by the time you hit the 1990s and the 2000s and everything, you go through these slides, and it goes from a little bit, little bit, little bit, and then it's just so many distribution options that are out there, right?
mhm,
It's just a lot, and it's very hard to keep up with it all because it's always evolving. Right now, AI is really big into the distribution of it, into the reporting of it as well too. It's a hot topic, into creative development as well too. So we're diving very big into upgrading our reporting to incorporate AI learning right on top of it and automated, and trying to figure that out along with everybody else, right?
mhm, right.
So we're advancing the trackability of things and the leverage for optimizations. We also maintain a human element as well too, that we don't want to lose. I feel like if we go straight, especially right now, it's not AI and machine learning is not to a point where it can do everything. You have to have some kind of human element when you're doing that. But we have a lot of processes in place. We have a pretty big SOP manual. We have over 75 in-house training videos as well too. We're in the works of creating Ethic University, which is going to be a 10-course college level courses for our in-house people to talk about, like, right now we have 9 reasons why advertising doesn't work, which is based off of an ebook that I wrote. We have media buying, media planning 101 and everything. So we do ongoing education to figure out what's on there, but we use historical roots that are true in advertising that still are relevant today, plus trying to educate ourselves on what's new and how do we adopt it and how do we use it. And one of the things that we had to do early on was niche down. When I was one shop, one person 10 years ago, I tried to be everything, and I realized I couldn't do that. So I grew a little bit and I was like, okay, let's niche down into hyper targeted digital advertising and the creative that supports it. And that's still the root of what we do. Our services expanded. We're really paid advertising experts at what's what we can do. But if someone talks to me about PR, if someone talks to me about some things that we aren't really great at, I say, sorry, we have to draw the line somewhere so we can be really good at the things that we have. Because as a 15-person shop, we still can't do everything. We're bigger than we ever have been, but we, we have to focus on the things that we need to focus on. So I think that helps as well too. Putting processes in place as well has really helped, and then staying up to date with things and adopting the things that work and testing stuff as well too. The
Right.
final thing that's been really good is from Warren Buffett, sort of from there, but essentially we adopted this methodology of having a big basket or big list of good ideas, but our to-do list might be 5 things from that list or just a
Mhm.
couple. So we can actually accomplish those things, but then we have this kind of treasure trove that we can rummage through of good ideas where we're like, okay, we did those 5 things. Well, let's go to our list of 187 things that are good ideas and see if there's anything that we want to work on right now. So it also means that we need to make it manageable and we can't do everything all at once. Otherwise, we won't accomplish anything.
Yeah, my friend Drew McClellan calls that like the Post-it note method. He puts 3 things on that Post-it, puts it on his computer every day, and nothing else gets done until those things get done.
Mhm.
Or those things get done, and anything else that, is kind of the sand that fills in the jar for sure. It feels to me like a lot of what you've done to handle change management or evolution has been incorporated into your maybe your talent retention and growth strategy too. If you are investing that much human capital and bandwidth into training your team members, because this is an internal training program that you're developing, right?
Yep.
Talk a little bit about the decision to make that investment and how you how you went through that mindset switch of having to set aside that amount of capital, both financial and time, to dedicate to upskilling your team members.
Yeah, it's so I always wanted to head up an agency since I was 20, and I spent about 10 years getting skill sets and capital to do that. And I kind of did a little bit correctly, a little bit incorrectly, where I became a advertiser, a marketer. So I knew how to work on the business and educate myself that way. And then over time, I realized I need to be an entrepreneur. I need to be a business owner. That's really the important thing. That's the role that I want. And that's the role that I am most in love with.
Mm.
Um, so that's where I kind of had that gear shift. But I was like, okay, we have this bank of knowledge and we keep on growing it. How do I share it effectively? And it becomes in advertising so much. There's so much information. How do we do that? How do we get people engaged? As well as my people are like, I wish that I could learn more, but find a time that I can actually do it.
Mhm.
So some of these things are engineered so someone can spend 15 minutes doing something really quickly or optimizing their time and being efficient as well too. And then the hiring process for us has developed and really grown. I mentioned one of our core values. We have 5 core values. We have a good mission statement. We have a big focus on culture as well too. So we hire people based off of that information that we're
Mhm.
looking for those right kind of fits. I don't want to hire somebody and teach them my core values. I want to hire somebody who their core values just happens to be the same and they're a talented individual that understands how to work in an ad agency.
Right.
So there's a couple of foundational things that are in place. The decision to build some of these resources and do some of these things really comes from the fact that we're coming up on 10 years this September of being in existence. This isn't something that I jumped into overnight. It's something that I was like, we should probably do these things. And this is my one big goal for the quarter that I'm going to work on and focus on
Mhm.
and everything. And then over time, I realized, well, we have this, we have that. It stacks up and everything. But then I can't force feed this to my people all at once as well, too. And it's
Right.
not even just the stuff that we develop. We have external partners that have training videos of their own that we'll utilize and leverage and other resources. So For us, every time we hire somebody, they get a 6 month to-do list that's broken out by month that says this is our expectations for you to accomplish these things by this month. And they're all very doable and everything. What we look for is somebody that's like, hey, I can work ahead, and give them option for that. If they are failing on that or a little bit behind, which rarely happens, but that's kind of an indicator like, hey, maybe something's not right there. We want them to be set up for success. So we have like a pretty methodical kind of process to onboard individuals to get them some education. But
Mhm.
then I'm getting stretched so thin as we grow compared to when there was like two other people and I could sit down with them every day and talk with them. I had to
Right.
figure out a way to automate some of the stuff that I've learned and that we've learned collectively and allow them to do it on their own. So it's actually an efficient use of my time to allow that transfer of knowledge to happen without having to repeat myself on an ongoing basis or have one of my team members repeat themselves as well too.
Right. Yeah. I love the idea of leverage and how you it can feel painful on the front end, right? To when especially when you're getting started and you have all this knowledge transfer. But
Hmm?
if you make a plan and chip away at it, depending on how you triage, the areas of learning that are more critical, it starts to feel more and more doable as time goes on and as you build that library of content up.
Yeah. And the other thing that that methodology transfers to is the external education and thought leadership that we have as well too. And the thing that I really like to share with other agency owners, because I found it to be so valuable, is hey, we're doing all this stuff internally, but we also will occasionally be like, hey, let's write an article, let's do a video, let's do something that's educational. And yeah, maybe we can use it on social media, post it, if someone finds it, SEO value, all that kind of stuff. But what I focus on is what are the questions that we get asked a lot and that we have to stop and explain it and everything.
Mhm.
And those are the ones that we want to have the thought leadership on. A, those are probably the ones that people are searching for online, so that's
Right.
helpful for SEO. But B, what I found is, if I can mention that hero journey thing, I can mention the spiderweb thing, I can mention all these other stuff, and then I can say, hey, I give you a little taste. Here's the article. Here's the video. Here's the asset. It adds credibility. It adds, and it also optimizes my time, and it gives an additional touch point to somebody that I don't have to be in front of them to have that conversation. We have that conversation. That's one touch point. I send them the video link. They watch it on their own time, but it's still me talking to them technically. So that's two touch points as well too. And the more touch points you have with a prospective prospect or even like an active client, the more they feel like you're on their side, and the more that they feel attuned to you and that you're there for them as well too. So that's the other thing. I like creating thought leadership aligned with what people are asking about on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that um, it's a give back to the community who needs what you do, and it's as much as it's a thought leadership tactic. So we're big fans at my firm of education based thought leadership also, and I have found that not only does it help people find you, but the act of doing it helps you learn so much more about your client industry. I have learned as much as I've taught when I've created content to help agency owners because they're the ones who fed me the questions, right?
Mhm.
And they're the ones who are talking with us about what they're really going through day to day and running their businesses. And similarly for you, your clients are telling you or your prospects are telling you what they're wondering about and how what you do works and how it's effective, et cetera. So I really think it is a true exchange of knowledge versus a one-way knowledge transfer when you do thought leadership work.
Yeah, and it's funny too because that idea derived from a orthopedic surgeon who is one of the best bunion doctors in the country.
Mhm.
And he would see like 60 people a day, like an insane amount of numbers. And he's like, I keep on having the same things and everything. If I just had a video that I could have them watch, if it saves me 1 minute per person, that's an hour a day that they could
Right.
have. Obviously, could even save more than that. But that's what I was always kind of doing thought leadership before that, but that's what solidified it of like, wow, how much time can that save and how beneficial that could be. It's also the only educational comedy bunion video that I think that I've ever seen, and we got to create it.
Well, that's the great thing about working in a creative services field is that you just never know what your clients are going to throw at you.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
So I know that as we kind of wind our time down together, I know that one of the things that Ethic does is collaborate in strategic alliances with other agencies.
Hmm?
And so I really wanted to get your perspective for those creative agency leaders or any other agency leader who doesn't do what you do. What is the low hanging fruit they need to know or do or be so that they can best collaborate with another agency like yours? Because we've done a lot of work on the legal side of strategic alliance development, but what do you find makes the most successful alliances agency to agency? What should agency owners know?
Yeah, I think one of the things I believe is being confident in what your niche is as an agency and saying this is what we're really, really good at. But being knowledgeable about every other thing that you could possibly get asked because there's so many different things that could impact advertising and marketing and those kind of things. Um, but then also having resources as well too. I love it's almost like collecting, like my son's super into he's 6, he's super into Pokemon. It's like
Mhm.
collect them all. Like I want to collect every agency that does something really, really good. So if I don't do something, I can at least refer to somebody. That could actually lend to referral kickbacks, which is extra revenue as well too. But it lends to credibility and more opportunities, and additional touch point as well too, where that referral you can get brought up to that person. So if they do ever need your services, that it gets recycled to that person that you had referred, if that ever pops up in the future. So
Mhm.
I like the idea of just having a good referral network that you can say, hey, we don't do this, but we know somebody who does, or know a couple people that do, which could again add that revenue or at least give that area of expertise. Now, when you collaborate with somebody, whether it's a white label or a known entity, I like the idea of having kind of defined roles and just being nice and not being greedy. Saying like, hey, what do you need help with? Because we work with agencies that will come to us. We're very big in programmatic digital advertising. We're direct on DSPs. We do fair pricing on that as well too. So we've had people say, hey, can you run this for us? We have everything else covered. Great, we'll do that. Hey, we also do other things as well too. So we have a knowledge base if you want to bounce ideas off of it, if you want to collaborate on anything else as well too, just kind of see how this is all interworking, share some information. If we can just make the overall campaign better for their clients, then they might renew or add more budget or do one of these other things, which then benefits us, even if we're just getting the portion of that as well too.
Mhm.
So I love the idea of just being a team player, but defining what the roles are as well too. To use my son as another analogy, he just got done with baseball or t-ball. It's one of those things like if you're a shortstop, understand how to play the shortstop in every position. Where he might have been playing shortstop, but him and the outfielders and second baseman all converge on the same ball at the same time, and there's mass confusion, right? So
Just like
defining
Pee-wee
the
soccer.
roles.
All the
What's
kids
that?
run it it's just like Pee-wee soccer, all the kids run with the ball on a big mound.
Oh, yep, absolutely. That's another good analogy. My daughter does soccer or just
Yeah,
finished up soccer, so I could use that. But she's a little bit older, so there
uh-huh.
is at least a little bit of passing going on. Um, but defining the roles I find to be very, very helpful. Being nice and not being greedy are like the kind of the keys to success with that. And that's what allows you to also, if you're the agency that's supporting the other agency, that's what allows you to get repeat business from them. It's just
Right,
being a good partner to them. And if
right,
you're the agency that's looking to hire somebody as well too, that's what you want. You want somebody who's going to be a good partner extension of your team that's going to align with how you want to present yourself to your clients.
right. Well, Jeff, this has been a tremendous conversation. We
Hmm?
we, we covered a lot of territory in our time together, from interweaving creative and digital together to sort of talking about how you put together an effective and sticky, pun intended, digital strategy, to sort of how the practice of digital has evolved and how you're helping your team members evolve with it. So I want to thank you for spending time today, just sharing your experiences. And where can other agencies learn more about what Ethic does? Get in touch with you if they want to discuss collaboration and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So they can always reach out through our website, ethic-ads.com. I'm happy to provide my LinkedIn information as well too. I love connecting on LinkedIn. They can connect with me on there as well too. But through the website or through LinkedIn, they can definitely touch base with us. We do. I'm going to throw the shameless plug out there as well too. We did about 2 years ago start developing, and about a year ago develop the only self-serve geofence advertising platform that anybody can do with no minimums, called QJam, QUJAM. So QJam.com is another thing. And we do have a referral program for that. So if agency is like, hey, we got this person who wants to do geofencing, maybe it's too small, or we just want to refer this, this neat software out as well too. We'll give a kickback to 5% of the gross revenue for life of anybody that gets referred on that as well. So
Mhm.
we did put our toe in the water of ad tech over the last couple of years as well too. So we can be reached at that website as well.
Okay, well, we'll have to have another conversation about developing IP as a separate revenue source, which, as anybody who listens to the show knows, is a passion point of mine for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
In the meanwhile, Jeff Swartz, thank you so much for being with me on Innovative Agency today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too, Sharon. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode. Until then, be well.